Why? Why are you overwhelmed? And then eventually, why do you shut down? Do you already know? If not, then listen up. Why you cannot control your emotions in that moment when the noise is triggering you? Just think back about the last time when that happened as a movie in front of you on a screen. See the situation, how it was evolving, and pause as if you were pausing a Netflix movie. Pause in the moment when you felt you were either you would start to yell in the next moment, or you had that emotional shutdown. Pause it right there. How did you feel? What were the voices telling you in your head in that moment? Even pause this podcast episode if you need time to think about it, because usually it happens so fast. So what we need to do is to slow it down so that you become present before the cutoff and the hijack happens, okay? So even pause this right now and focus on what was the story in your head in that moment just before you lost it, in whatever way, explosion or shut down. What was the story in your head, and what did you make it mean about yourself? So usually for me, what was, I already described what was going on with my daughter when she was, and like, so much. So I felt, resentful. This is not fair. I'm doing so much. Why is it happening? It's never enough. I felt overwhelmed, and out of control, powerless. I wanted her to stop, but no matter what I said or did, it didn't work. So I felt out of control and totally powerless. And it made me feel like I was doing something wrong. So then the consequence, if I would really start digging, I was not feeling good enough as a mom. What's wrong with me? How come I'm the one who's supposed to know my daughter the best? I'm the one who's supposed to have all the answers and helping her with all the emotions. How come I cannot do that? What's wrong with me? I'm not good enough. Okay, that's what was triggering me. And the fact that there was so much noise, it even prevented me from being able to think straight, like to do all of this digging that I just did because I'm calm, there's no trigger. That's why I want you to slow it down now, because hopefully there is nothing going on in your environment, in your surroundings. You do not have the space to do this discernment usually in the moment, in the middle of it, because of the noise, right? The noise prevents you from thinking straight. So do it now that you're calm, okay? And figure out what are these stories and how does that make you feel? Because then the next step is to think back into your life, into your past. When is the first time you felt this way ever? And it's not about being with abusive, yelling ex. It's not about any teenage bullying. This goes all the way back into your childhood and your parents, your siblings. What was the situation in your home growing up? Was there also some drama? Was there also noise, chaos? Did it feel unsafe? Were there people yelling at you, making you scared, so that you learned how to shut down, so that you wouldn't have a mental breakdown or some like split personality disorder out of all of these threats coming your way? Yeah. Take a deep breath, sending you a big hug. I know, this is not an easy quest. But this is where your overwhelm and shutdown is coming from. Okay. And the good news is, no matter how painful that realization is, at least now you know, because when you know where it's coming from, so now you know what it's going to take for you to heal it. The answer is childhood trauma healing. Yeah, because there's a part of you who got emotionally stuck, frozen back then. When you felt like there was too much drama, I had no control. Again, you see the link with the trauma button that your kids are pushing now by yelling, by being too noisy. There's a direct link with the time in the past when you felt that there was too much noise, too much drama, you were out of control, powerless, disrespected, not good enough. And most often even not safe, because when all of this is happening and you're too small, you're not feeling, because you have no control, it's not safe. This is why it cuts so deep, because it's related to your like fear for your own survival, right? Maybe it was so bad at home when you were growing up that like you saw your parents fighting physically, emotionally, verbally abusing each other, or there were your siblings that were bullying you, yeah, or there was too much shouting and yelling in general. All of these are some level of trauma, and I also explain it on the training, because trauma is a spectrum. It's not just like this one thing that you were severely beaten up, maybe that was even the case as well, or raped or abused, but there might have been something lighter, less violent going on. But if it was happening every day, several times a day, all the time, drip, 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 it's like the death by 1,000 paper cuts. If you have just one, nothing happens. But if there's something that keeps cutting you, even slightly, but every day, several times a day, on exactly the same spot, all you will end up, and sorry for the graphical metaphor, but just to get the point across, you understand how dangerous this was? So that's why it makes perfect sense why you would react the way you do today. You see? It's an unhealed reaction that you have been carrying with you since years, decades ago. Yes. And those are the things you cannot sweep up under the carpet. And this is unfortunately so often the case with men, because their generational childhood trauma is even heavier with the fact that they're told to toughen it up and be the man, and emotions, like who cares, be the rational guy, just be a man strong enough and you can get over anything, and you need to figure it out because you need to be there to protect the family. So they're taught to sweep it under the carpet, like that's the past, you cannot change the past, so let's focus on the future and let's march in. Right, how is that working for you? You see how that keeps jumping up, especially in the situation when you want it the least? Okay, generational trauma healing. Okay, the next step, the next thing you need after you stop making that jumping up and either doing the yelling or the emotional shutdown, either way, both are damaging for you and for your children to witness that. The second step that we do actually in parallel in the Zen Supermom, Zen Super Dad program is mental fitness. What mental fitness is doing is it's giving you the ability to prepare for the triggers in advance and to kind of clear out the space in your head. Because, and that's why I love therapy, and I have a lot of respect for all the mental health care professionals, but classic counseling, classic therapy is not going to help you clean up fully the childhood trauma. It's not going to stop it from jumping up, because you're missing the second piece, the follow-up, installing the healthy patterns, if you want, like the healthy software, like the coping mechanisms, the way how to react. Right now, there is trauma reaction engraved all over your system. By default, you go there without even thinking. It's a trauma reaction. What we need to do is then not only heal the past, but rewrite this mechanism on how you deal with stress, how you deal with situations that are high stress, high pressure, no time, no space in your head to think straight. This is something that needs to be trained, because unfortunately, well, we are not here to blame your parents, our parents. They did the best they could, right? I know mine did. They did already better than my grandparents. I know that for sure. So I'm nothing but grateful to my mom. She did better. But let's be honest, they didn't teach us how to react in stressful situations, how to react in a healthy way. They were not there to set healthy boundaries. They didn't teach us how we could have big emotions in a safe way, because they couldn't deal with it. My mom couldn't deal with my emotions. So that's why I couldn't deal with my daughter's emotions. You see, that's why it's generational stuff. That's why there needs to be this healing happening. And that's why we need to learn, relearn, rewrite those reactions we learned from our parents. And no, it's not your fault why you haven't been able to do it, even though you might have been doing so much like meditation, mindfulness practices, and breathing techniques, and count till 10, and parenting techniques on how to deal with noisy kids, and I don't know what, and even anger therapy, classic talk therapy, you name it. This is why it doesn't work, because it's so deeply engraved in your system. Okay, so there needs to be consistent practice, just like going to the gym day by day, strengthening those neural pathways, those automated reactions in your brain so that it stops going into the trauma reaction and the shutdown or the aggression, the yelling, and it starts developing, like start walking on it. First of all, it will be like a little path through jungle. You will have to walk it the first time and it will be like feeling weird. And is that how I should react when I'm feeling triggered? Like, this feels weird, this is different. The more often you walk that path and you start connecting those parts of the brain, even though it gets triggered, you start learning how to connect with the with the part of your brain that is still calm and focused and connected, present. First, it will be a little jungle path that will not be easy to walk. But the more often you walk it, the more often you do it, the more you practice when you are calm, the easier it will be to choose that path even when you're triggered. It's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. But this is the only way, the best way, the fastest way, how I know it works, because it works for me and it works for the hundreds of other women and now even men inside the program, okay? So that's why I want to share it with you, to save your freaking time and money on doing things that do not work and then blaming yourself for being so broken and hopeless. And yeah, those are all the things that I'm hearing from people who finally find me. They watch that mommy tantrum training and then they want to book the assessment call with me to find out, like, really, please, I know it sounds too good to be true, everything you said about the other moms. Like, could it work for me too? So then they book the assessment call and they tell me just like, when I confirm to them, yes, we could help you too. And what you have actually, what you just described is classic. That's what we are doing for every mom. They're like, there's such a visible change in their face, in their energy. They start crying. They're like, I felt I was hopeless. I felt I was so broken that nobody, and all these therapists, they told me like they cannot help me. And I felt after 20 years of doing therapy, I thought I could never be there. And you're telling me it can work just in a few weeks. And so there's like a shift already in their energy back already then, even before they start doing any work, right? That's why I'm doing this podcast episode for you. Because I want you to know as well, it is perfectly doable. It is feasible. You're not broken beyond the point of repair. This is doable. Yeah? And for me to be able to tell you 100% and exactly how long it could take and what it would take for you specifically, because we don't do any cookie cutters. It's very personalized because your story is unique. If you would want that, then you should book that assessment call with me as well, one-on-one. Yeah. And you have email addresses everywhere and you can check it. Yeah. Because once you do that, once you heal the part of you that got stuck in not feeling heard, not feeling safe, because there was so much drama, so much noise when you were growing up that you learned how to shut down and either fight, aggressive, or flight, run away from it emotionally or even physically. Once you clean that up, then once you do the mental fitness piece, learning how to rewrite and find a new path, a new way, healthy way, calm, focused, even when there's so much noise, you learn how to stay present. Then, my dear mom or dad, you can start putting in practice all of those smart parenting techniques that I know you've already done, right? And even without that, another part that usually sounds too good to be true when moms meet me the first time. I tell them, you are the best parenting expert on your kids.